support to other RAF units. They were also key to the operations of the Air Training Corps, the civilian organisation that ferried aircraft from storage or manufacturers to squadrons. Here they come from the left, a very attractive pairing of the Dragon Rapide and the Anson. Later renamed as the Dragon Rapide. And in the pre-war years it was a mainstay of many British airlines. And upon the outbreak of war, large numbers were impressed into RAF service, and over 500 more were produced specifically for military use as Dominies. They were used for radio operator training and light transport tasks, and also for air ambulance duties. A small number were passed over to the US 8th Air Force in the United Kingdom. You'll see that this Dragon Rapide is camouflaged, and this very aeroplane played its own wartime role. Dates from 1941. It was built as a Domini 1 at the Havilland Hackfield plant, serving initially with number 1 camouflage flight at Hendon, today the home of the RAF Museum, London. In the latter part of 1943, it was put back onto the Civil Register, transferred to an organisation known as the Associated Airways Joint Committee, and assigned to the Northern Division of Scottish Airways, who used it for scheduled services and ambulance flights. And it would have carried many diverse passengers during its operations up there in the Highlands and Islands. The camouflage was applied as, in effect, wartime regulation colours for civil aircraft, with the red, white and blue identifying stripes below the civil registration. And its regular route took it over the top secret at the time naval base at Scapa Flow. Namely as a twin-engine coastal reconnaissance land plane for RAF Coastal Command. It was the Royal Air Force's first monoplane to have a retractable undercarriage. And the first ones indeed went to Coastal Command in 1936. Bomber Command even took some on as an interim measure before definitive bomber types became available, and 26 squadrons in those two commands had Ansons when war broke out. Soon, aircraft like the Lockheed Hudson and the Armstrong Whitworth Whitley rendered the Anson obsolete on the front line, but in terms of training all the members of an RAF bomber crew, it was hugely important in the training role. What we see here is actually a post-war mark, an Anson T-21 trainer that was built in 1950. It was an example of this mark that was one of the last on RAF strength, not being retired by the Southern Communications Squadron at Bovingdon until 1968. Well, earlier I mentioned the Air Transport Auxiliary. Rapides and Dominies and Ansons were used as air taxi aircraft ferrying the ATA. And one of them, whose views on being accepted into the ATA were recorded some years ago by an IWM researcher, was Lady Rosemary Ducrot.
And they had this idea of women armed conditioned or built to fly fast, dangerous fighting aeroplanes. But that died rather hard, and we had to fight every step. And then, you see, we had the appalling responsibility weighing on our shoulders of, if we took something up, if a man took the thing up and broke it, it was just too bad, and very bad, of course, but people do, after all, sometimes break aeroplanes. But if we'd broken one, immediately they'd say, you see, we said they couldn't do it, and they can't. And so we had to be twice as careful as anybody else not to do that. It was a terrible weight to carry, because aeroplanes and English weather are both very chancy, awkward things.
The voice of the late Lady Rosemary Ducrot, one of the Air Transport Auxiliary's 166 female pilots who served during the Second World War. It was the last pass by the two aeroplanes in that formation. That organisation now ensuring the preservation of a range of very significant British aircraft. You can see a Mark I Anson, the example that was in service at the outbreak of World War II, in the airspace building amongst IWM Duxford's collection of significant British and Commonwealth aeroplanes. Mark Miller rolling out first then in the Dragon Rapide, and behind him Ben Cox in the Anson. But now it's time to